Have you ever noticed how someone who was sharp and vibrant at 75 can suddenly seem diminished by 80? I've watched this happen with friends, family members, and patients. That puzzling decline that seems to come out of nowhere. Here's what most doctors won't tell you. Living well past 80 isn't just about genetics or luck. There are hidden factors silently determining who thrives and who fades, and they're not what you think. Forget the usual advice about diet, exercise, or giving up bad habits. The 5 unexpected reasons I'm about to share operate beneath the surface, affecting even those who've done everything right. The good news? Once you recognize these subtle forces, you can actually do something about them. If you're curious about what really determines how you'll age in your later years and how to change course while there's still time, stay with me. Before we dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our weekly insights on aging brilliantly. Let's start with the most overlooked factor that might be affecting your longevity right now. 1. Loss of microsocial engagement. One of the first and most overlooked reasons many people don't thrive past 80 is what gerontologists now call microsocial engagement. Those brief, seemingly insignificant interactions that used to fill your days without you even noticing their importance. Remember how it feels to exchange a quick joke with the barista at your coffee shop? That nod to the mail carrier? The brief chat with the checker at your grocery store? These small moments aren't just pleasant. They're actually vital biological regulators for your nervous system. They're like tiny tune-ups for your brain, keeping your social wiring sharp and engaged. I noticed this with my neighbor, Ed, who at 85 was still remarkably sharp. His secret wasn't expensive supplements or rigorous exercise. I walk to the corner store every morning, he told me, not because I need something, but because Jimmy behind the counter knows my name. We talk baseball for 2 minutes, and somehow that makes my whole day better. What Ed understood intuitively, science now confirms. These microconnections trigger positive hormonal responses, reduce inflammation, and maintain crucial neural pathways in your brain. When researchers at UCLA studied older adults with cognitive resilience, they found something fascinating. It wasn't deep friendships alone that protected brain function, but also the frequency of these casual hello interactions throughout the day. Yet after 80, these connections often vanish quietly. Perhaps you've already noticed this happening. The world starts coming to you instead of you going out into it. Groceries get delivered. Family members run errands for you. Winter weather keeps you indoors for months. Hearing challenges make casual conversations more difficult. And slowly, those small social tune-ups disappear. Marlene, a 78-year-old retired teacher in Phoenix, felt herself slipping into this pattern after a bout of pneumonia. My daughter meant well, setting up all these delivery services, she explained. But I realized I hadn't spoken to anyone but her for almost 2 weeks. I felt myself getting foggy, less like myself. Her solution was brilliantly simple. She started sitting on her front porch each morning with her coffee, waving to neighbors, exchanging a few words with the dog walkers. Just those little hellos put the color back in my day, she said. What small interactions have disappeared from your routine lately? Have you found yourself going days without these brief exchanges? The good news is that reconnecting doesn't require grand efforts. Try choosing the checkout line with a person instead of self-checkout. Make that brief eye contact and smile at your mail carrier. Consider a regular morning stop at a local coffee shop where they might learn your name. Remember, these aren't just pleasantries. They're medicine for your brain, signals to your body that you're still connected to the living world around you. And that message might be one of the most powerful prescriptions for living well beyond 80. Second, gradual loss of daily purpose. The second silent reason many people fade after 80 has nothing to do with physical health, and everything to do with something so simple we often overlook it. Having a reason to get out of bed in the morning. I'm not talking about grand purpose, writing the great American novel or saving the world. I'm talking about the small, humble reasons that shape your days. Maybe it's watering your tomato plants before the sun gets too high. Maybe it's feeding the neighborhood cat that waits by your door. Perhaps it's making your famous banana bread for the church bake sale, or calling your granddaughter every Tuesday evening. These aren't just activities. They're anchors that give your days meaning and structure. And here's what fascinating research from the blue zones, places where people routinely live past 100, has revealed. Having these small purposes is actually more predictive of longevity than many medical factors. Rose, an 89-year-old woman in Miami with moderate arthritis and heart issues, outlived all her doctor's predictions. When I asked her secret, she laughed. "I have 6 orchids that would die without me," she said, "and I promised my great-granddaughter I'd teach her to make tamales the old way when she turns 10. That's still 3 years away, so I'm not going anywhere." What Rose intuitively understood, medical research now confirms. When your brain believes you're needed, even for something small, it triggers a cascade of positive biological responses. Your stress hormones normalize. Your immune system functions better. Your brain maintains sharper cognitive pathways. Having purpose becomes literal life support. But here's where things get tricky after 80. Those small purposes often slip away, sometimes so gradually you barely notice. Maybe the garden becomes too difficult to maintain. Perhaps the community group you volunteered with disbanded. Your weekly bridge game faded as friends moved or passed away. Your famous cookies became too complicated to bake. And day by day, those anchors of purpose disappear. Without those rhythms and responsibilities, something profound happens. Your body begins listening to a dangerous message. "I'm no longer needed here." Systems that once regulated your health start to quiet down, not because they're broken, but because they're waiting for a reason to stay engaged. Clara, a 92-year-old in Chicago, found her spark again after feeling herself slipping. "My doctor suggested I needed a job," she told me with a smile. "Not for money, but for meaning." She now helps sort books at her local library one morning a week. "Those books would be a mess without me," she says proudly. "It's not much, but it's something only I do." What gives your mornings purpose right now? What small responsibility makes you feel needed? If you're struggling to answer, that's your cue to create new anchors. It could be as simple as being the person who remembers everyone's birthdays, tending a small container garden, or becoming the neighborhood historian. The scale doesn't matter. What matters is having a reason, however modest, that makes tomorrow worth showing up for. 3. Overcautious inactivity. Have you noticed how "be careful" becomes the world's favorite thing to tell you once you pass 70? This well-intentioned advice leads us to the third unexpected reason many don't thrive past 80. The silent danger of becoming too careful. Now, let me be clear. There's a world of difference between being careful and becoming fearfully inactive. One protects you. The other can quietly diminish you. It typically starts with something reasonable. Maybe you slipped on ice last winter, or had a dizzy spell reaching for something on a high shelf. Nothing catastrophic happened, but it scared you. So you make a sensible adjustment. You ask someone else to get things from high places, or you limit outdoor walking in winter. But over time, these small cautions can snowball into something more restrictive. You stop bending to retrieve items from low shelves. You avoid stepping onto grass because it's uneven. You sit more and move less. Everyone around you applauds your prudence. Better safe than sorry, they say. And before long, What began as wise caution transforms into a life that's shrinking by the inch. Diane, a vibrant 83-year-old from Minneapolis, described her own wake-up call. "After I fell in the garden, my children practically bubble-wrapped me. For months, I barely moved, afraid of falling again. Then I noticed I couldn't get out of the bathtub without struggling. That scared me more than the thought of another fall." What Diane experienced is backed by solid science. Our bodies follow a simple but profound rule: use it or lose it. When movement decreases, even temporarily, muscle atrophy begins within days. Balance mechanisms in your inner ear get less practice and become less reliable. Your proprioceptors, those sensors that tell you where your body is in space, become less accurate. The cruel irony: the very caution meant to prevent a fall can actually make a fall more likely. James, a 79-year-old former teacher, found a brilliant middle path. After a minor fall, instead of cutting back on activity, he got strategic. "I enrolled in a balance class at the senior center," he told me. "Then I mapped out safer walking routes with benches every quarter mile." James understood something vital. The answer wasn't less movement, but smarter movement. Recent research from Harvard Medical School confirms James's approach. Their studies show that even small, consistent movements preserve both muscle mass and the neural pathways that control them. More surprisingly, these movements also maintain cognitive function, as physical activity increases blood flow to the brain. Take an honest inventory of your movements lately. Have you started avoiding certain activities, not because you can't do them, but because you're afraid to try? Are there movements you've quietly surrendered? The solution isn't recklessness, but rather gradual, supported re-engagement. Maybe it's practicing getting up from the floor with furniture nearby for support. Perhaps it's reclaiming certain movements while seated before trying them standing. Remember, your body doesn't thrive on protection alone. It needs practice. Movement isn't just about maintaining muscle. It's about telling your body you still need its full capabilities. That message might be one of the most powerful medicines for living vibrantly beyond 80. If you're finding value in these insights, I'd love to hear which one has resonated most with you so far. Share your thoughts in the comments below. 4. Disrupted sleep cycles from irregular light exposure. There's a silent timekeeper inside your body that doesn't tick, but governs almost everything. Your energy, your memory, your mood, even how your cells repair themselves. After 80, this internal clock, your circadian rhythm, becomes increasingly vulnerable to disruption, and that disruption can dramatically accelerate aging. The culprit? Something so simple most people never suspect it: irregular exposure to light. Margaret, a sharp-minded 86-year-old from Portland, was puzzled by her increasing fatigue and foggy thinking. "I was sleeping 8 hours," she told me, "but waking up feeling like I hadn't slept at all." Her doctor ran tests. Nothing showed up. Her medications hadn't changed. Her diet was excellent. The turning point came when her granddaughter, visiting for a week, noticed something. "Grandma, you never open your curtains in the morning, but you have every light on until midnight." This observation led to a simple experiment. Margaret started opening her blinds wide first thing each morning and dimming her lights after dinner. Within 2 weeks, her energy improved, her thinking clarified, and her mood lifted dramatically. What happened? Your body relies on natural daylight to set its internal clock. Morning sunlight tells your brain it's time to be alert and active. It suppresses melatonin, your sleep hormone, and triggers cortisol, your wake-up hormone. Evening darkness does the opposite, signaling your body to prepare for rest and repair. After 80, 2 things often change this pattern. First, many older adults venture outdoors less frequently, especially during colder months. Second, evening routines often include bright lights and television until bedtime. This creates a biological confusion. Your body never gets strong daytime signals or clear nighttime signals. The consequences go far beyond just feeling tired. Research from the National Institute on Aging shows that disrupted circadian rhythms are linked to weakened immune function, increased inflammation, and even accelerated cognitive decline. Your body's repair systems, which depend on proper sleep cycles, can't function optimally when your internal clock is confused. Howard, a 91-year-old retired engineer in Tucson, created a simple system to maintain his rhythms. Every morning at 7:30, I have my coffee on the patio. Rain or shine, just 15 minutes. And every evening at 8 o'clock, I dim my lights and switch to reading instead of television. His doctor is amazed by his mental sharpness and resilience. If you've been spending most of your days in dimly lit rooms and your evenings under bright artificial light, your body might be aging faster than necessary. Here's a simple experiment worth trying. For 1 week, expose yourself to natural morning light, or very bright indoor light, within an hour of waking. In the evening, begin dimming your lights 2 to 3 hours before bedtime. Reduce screen time in the evening hours, or use the night mode settings on your devices. There's another crucial aspect to this light equation: vitamin D production. Your skin creates vitamin D when exposed to sunlight, but this ability decreases significantly with age. Low vitamin D is linked to weakened immunity, bone loss, and even mood disorders. Getting regular, brief sun exposure, just 10 to 15 minutes several times weekly, can help maintain healthy levels. Have you noticed changes in your energy or sleep quality over the years? Could irregular light exposure be playing a role? This simple adjustment to your daily patterns might be one of the most powerful, yet overlooked, ways to enhance your vitality after 80. 5. Emotional suppression from loss and isolation. By the time many of us reach our 80s, we've experienced more losses than most younger people can imagine. The passing of a spouse, siblings, dear friends, sometimes even children. While these profound losses are acknowledged, what's rarely discussed is how the cumulative weight of grief can quietly change our physiology when left unexpressed. I remember sitting with Robert, an 85-year-old retired professor who came to me not for grief counseling, but for persistent digestive issues and sleep problems. As we talked, I asked about losses he'd experienced. "That's all ancient history now," he said with a dismissive wave. "I've had 10 years to get over Martha's passing, and losing my brother 5 years ago. Well, that's just what happens at our age." Robert's response wasn't unusual. Many of his generation were taught that emotional stoicism was a virtue, that moving on meant not talking about grief, that there's a time limit on sadness. But his body told a different story, through elevated blood pressure, disrupted sleep, and a digestive system in rebellion. What's happening in cases like Robert's is something researchers now call embodied grief. Emotions that aren't processed don't simply vanish. They become stored in the body. Recent studies from the field of psychoneuroimmunology show how unexpressed emotions trigger inflammatory responses, disrupt hormone regulation, and even suppress immune function. It's not about being emotionally dramatic. It's about acknowledging that grief doesn't operate on a timetable, and that the human need for emotional expression doesn't diminish with age. Elena, an 88-year-old grandmother in Miami, found her health improving when she finally broke this pattern. "For years after losing my husband, I put on a brave face for everyone. I was the strong one, the rock. But I was getting sicker. Headaches, exhaustion, heart palpitations. Her turning point came through an unexpected friendship with a neighbor who had also lost her spouse. We started having coffee together on Tuesdays. Sometimes we laugh, sometimes we cry, but for the first time, I can say, I still miss him terribly, and someone truly understands. The science behind Elena's improvement is compelling. When we express emotions in safe ways, our bodies release tension that would otherwise manifest physically. Our parasympathetic nervous system, responsible for rest and digest functions, can resume normal operation. And perhaps most importantly, the burden of carrying grief alone is lightened. If you recognize this pattern in yourself, the habit of saying, "I'm fine," when you're not, of changing the subject away from losses, of believing you should be over it by now, consider this. Your emotional health is inseparable from your physical health. Finding safe outlets for expression isn't self-indulgent. It's necessary maintenance. This might mean joining a grief support group, even years after a loss. It could mean writing letters to those you've lost, expressing what you wish you could still tell them. It might be as simple as allowing yourself to say to a trusted friend, "I'm having a hard day today. I miss them." What emotions have you been carrying silently? Could some of your physical symptoms be your body's way of expressing what hasn't been said? Remember, acknowledging grief isn't about dwelling in sadness. It's about creating space for both sorrow and joy, making room for the full spectrum of human experience that makes life rich, even in its most difficult moments. As we close this conversation, I want to share something important. Most people don't fade after 80 because of one dramatic moment. It's rarely a single diagnosis or fall that changes everything. Instead, it's the quiet accumulation of small shifts, the disappearing social interactions, the fading daily purposes, the increasing caution, the disrupted rhythms, the unexpressed emotions. But here's the hopeful truth. Just as these changes happen gradually, they can be reversed the same way. Small, consistent actions can reignite your vitality, regardless of your current age. Which of these 5 factors resonated most deeply with you? Perhaps more importantly, which one could you take a small step to address today? Maybe it's sitting outside for morning coffee to reset your body's clock. Maybe it's finding one small purpose that makes tomorrow worth showing up for. Remember, aging isn't something that simply happens to you. You have far more power than you might realize to shape how you experience your later years. The question isn't whether you'll reach 80. It's how vibrantly you'll live once you get there. I'd love to hear which factor surprised you most, or what small change you're planning to make. Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found value in these insights, please like this video and subscribe for more conversations about aging with purpose and joy.